scribes came up to Jesus and put a question to him. "Which is the first of all the commandments?" Jesus replied, "This is the first. Listen, Israel, the Lord our God is the one Lord, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: you must love your neighbour as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." The scribe said to him, "Well spoken, Master. What you have said is true, that he is one and there is no other. To love with all your heart, with all your understanding and strength, and to love your neighbour as yourself, this is far more important than any holocaust or sacrifice." Jesus, seeing how wisely he had spoken, said, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And after that, no one dared to question him any more. The greatest commandment of all, to love God above all else. This is something that we really need to sort of grow into, isn't it? As we grow, I think we learn to know God in a different way, and yet the little child, with its wonderful, simple observation, often floors us with the wisdom. So we think we're growing in love, but sometimes children just have that wonderful insight.
Yeah, there's some simple way in which they can express a huge truth. That passage is very dynamic for me. It's not a new question for Jesus. It's like a catechism question that he would have learnt at his mother's knee, and it was so much part of the Jewish formula of what is the greatest commandment. So the cynic in me is saying this was a kind of a trick question. Why was he asked this question? And I find Jesus being extremely charitable in the way that he responds. So he's kind of showing that love in accepting the question. Why was the scribe asking? I mean, he knew the answer. Was he trying to trick Jesus or trap him? But I see at the end where he says to Jesus, he adds a bit, this is better, this is greater than any holocaust or sacrifice. And that's where I think the barb is, because the offering of sacrifice, the offering of the Holocaust, was very much part of the tradition. And to cut that out, or to say it didn't matter, was really hitting at the income of the scribes and the Pharisees, the income of the temple, and the whole structure of their social structure.
Yes.
And I think that's where the barb was. It was trying to get Jesus to say, none of that matters. And Jesus instead said that you've spoken wisely. He blessed him.
Yes, he did. But this was a reading from age-old documents taught to every Jewish person, in their lifetime. And interesting that he chose that question, as you say. Yes, chose to ask.
And I think Jesus, you're mentioning about the children, Jesus does show what he said earlier. You have to be like a little child to enter the kingdom. And he kind of took the question and responded to it with the same simplicity and trust. Even though perhaps in his heart he knew that this person was really trying to rile him or upset him or get him to say something that would condemn him.
Or test him just as...
test him.
That's right.
So maybe that's the lesson for us, to keep the... just to be true to ourselves and not to look at other reasons that people might have for their actions. Just love them as they are.
Yes, and love yourself as you are.
Yeah.
Yes, because that, love your neighbour as yourself. And that's often the hardest.
Mm.